Welcome to Roller. In this class, you will need a soft foam roller. And this is an OPTP foam roller. So it's a therapeutic roller. And it's very soft, almost like a Tempur-Pedic soft. So this roller is appropriate to roll even the more sensitive joints in your body and more sensitive areas of your body. Rules of rolling, if you've never rolled before. You do not want to roll over areas of your body if you're feeling pain in that area. If it feels so sensitive to the touch, you want to roll around, get off of that area, give it a rest. Never force it, never push too deeply into the tissue. When you are rolling, make sure that as you roll, it becomes a feeling of you are one with your roller. At first, when you start rolling, you're going to notice that you feel like you're going to fall off. And this is what I always say. So let's set your roller. Let's get started. Let's set your roller on your mat. And you're going to get on it with your head on your roller and your feet firmly grounded in like bridge position, because this is yoga rolling. And as you start rolling, bring your hands out and roll from side to side. Cross your spine. Keep your head on the roller. Your head should be on the roller and not dangling back behind the roller. So you're rolling across from one side of your wing bones to the other side, using your core muscles, your serratus, your rectus, your obliques to help you roll. And this is just the warm-up, just kind of getting one with your roller. You'll begin to feel one with your roller. All right, now, bring your knees up into a tabletop and balance there. And see if you can do it maybe no-handers or just light fingertips so that you're not pressing. Now, you always feel when you start rolling like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall off of this roller. Let's see if you can bring your feet up this time. Maybe one foot taps and up, and the other foot taps and up. But if you did roll off of your roller and fall off, you're about 3.5 inches from a padded roller, a yoga mat. So when you're rolling, no fear. Now, as you roll back and forth, and you want to do this, you can do it slower or faster, and everything in rolling is with your breath. So there's a rhythm to this whole thing. Inhaling and exhaling through the nostrils, just like your yoga breath, your ujjayi breath. And then come back to center on that spine. Let's test this out again. Cupcake fingers out there. Bring your feet up and open them up into a big V. So you have a big V in the air. And then turn your toes around and then turn them the other way, ankles. Feeling those ankles, and then bend your knees towards your armpits. Now this might make you feel like, okay, you're gonna fall off and you have to use your core a little bit more. And see if you can turn your buttocks from side to side. See how I'm wiggling my butt side to side. And you might feel like, ooh, I'm gonna fall off this way or that way. So then it helps you with your core stabilization. Maybe make feet together, cobbler feet in this. And then draw your knees a little closer up toward your armpits, and then set your feet down. Bring your hands to the sides of the mat on each side of the roller, and we're going to bridge. So you tuck your belly in, pubic bone rises, lift up, hips come off of the mat, thighs are lifting, frontal hip bones strong, shoulders sort of wrap around the roller, and you can close your eyes, put on your favorite music, or maybe you're just hanging out here. No music, just listening to your breath, the sounds of nature maybe. You could do this outside, you could do this in your house. Exhale, hips down. Okay, now let's do this rhythmically. Tilt the pubic bone and come up into your bridge, Sattu Bandhasana, and then roll back down onto the roller. Up and roll back down. Use your abs. Tuck and roll, coming up maybe higher each time, and come back down. Tuck and roll, and don't pinch in your low back as you do these. So you want to tuck your abs. Your sitting bones basically are moving toward the edge of the back crease of the back of your knee and calf connection there. And keep rolling up and down at your own pace. And then after we've done just a few more, this is such a great because you're a great opener. So you're opening the chest and you're rolling back and you're feeling that thoracic spine, feel the roller's support. So the roller becomes like a soft masseuse pushing through your tissue. Okay, then as you release here, let's lift up your feet again and then roll it up and sit. Now when you sit, I'm going to come back a little bit behind the roller, and you can have your bridge feet, and if you can, do your crossed ankles. So you're here, crossed ankles, Sukhasana, crisscross applesauce, and inhale up, and exhale over and twist. See if you can bring your fingertips to the back edge of your roller, looking over your shoulder blade on that right side, and inhale up, and then come over to the left side, looking past your shoulder on that left side. And then come back to center and inhale up. And exhale down with the hands. And now we're going to bring yourself to the floor. Take your roller, bring it in front of you, and sit staff position. So this is just a little warm up on the top of the quads. So roll over the quads with your forearms and roll down your shins and roll down your shins and up, and see how it feels. Now, there's points in your body that you don't want to roll hard. So you want to kind of float over the knees, the patella bones, not pushing right, but you can roll over the shin area and roll up and back to the quad area, the muscles of the thighs, but not hard ever on your bones of your knee. All right, now let's put that aside and come to a tabletop here and bring the roller in front of your knees. So your knees are about hip distance apart, and this would be classic tabletop. So let's just do cat and cow. Round your back into cat. So you're arching your upper thoracic and exaggerating that curve, and then letting your low back curve and bringing your chest forward and looking forward in your cow. And then rounding up into your cat and reversing into your cow. And then come back into your tabletop and take that roller and make sure it's right next to on the thighs. And you're going to roll up and down the thighs. Now you can bring it on your forearms. Make sure you're not pressing too hard on the forearms, and rolling your quads. As you start rolling your quads, don't roll over the kneecap. Just roll to the top of the patella bone and back down. If you're a gentleman rolling, don't roll over your private parts there. Be careful if you're a lady. You can roll completely up and down the thigh without much worry. Okay. If you want, you can take this to a rolling up into your pike and back down. Now I travel a lot. As you can see, I've already moved on my mat a little bit. So when I'm doing this, sometimes I reposition my roller. That's normal. Reposition it and reposition it. So this is the quad rolling. And see how I'm piking up the top, which if you're just starting rolling and this is kind of almost painful to you, you can stop, go a little slower, push a little less density in your pressure points. All right, now come back up, and I'm just showing you the movements. You can go longer on all of them if you want. I'm trying to do this so that you can get into it quicker. Bring your hands forward, sit back into a child's pose, press your spine down, and now let's just roll up and down your shins. Roll up and down your shins. So you want to roll that and start getting into the shins. Now you're not doing this by taking the arms and dragging. You're pushing your knees forward between your wrists. So as you're doing this, you're pushing and pulling with your abs, your quads. All right, now pull your knees forward and tuck your toes around the back edge of your roller. So now you're getting the edges of the ends of your shins, tops of your feet a little bit, sit up tall. And I like to do a little bit of abs while we're here. If this is too much for you sitting like this, I've got some tools here. You could take a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you could take a pillow or something and you could put it behind. I've had many people with very tight knees, and what we do is, it's good to stay in this pose for a bit unless it's painful. Then you want to come out or use appropriate tools. I had a couple blocks under here when I first started this. I was super tight in that area of the quad attachments around the knees. So sometimes a little assistance, or even less, even maybe something like a kneeling pad behind there. So all these tools are very user-friendly. Now, let's pick up a strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, you could use a bathrobe belt or some sort of, any kind of strappy type tool. And now let's take your arms wide apart and go down on the right and come up and down on the left and come up and down on the right and come up and down on the left and come up. You need to have your strap taut down on the right, so don't bend the elbows and come up, and don't force this into the shoulder and down and come up. You want to feel that the femur bone is firmly into your hip in your legs, so that you're not coming up and down off of the back of your heels. You're either supported on a block or a sitting pad. You want to stay grounded. You're working through your core. Now, as you're working through your core, coming from side to side, you want to make sure that you haven't pulled your upper arm bone, your humerus bone, out of the joint as you're doing this. So you're staying grounded in the hips and the thighs, and you're keeping the arm firmly in the joint as you're going from side to side. And then bring it down. All right, now we're going to switch positions of our feet. So you're going to take your roller and set your toes down flat. Take your roller, come on the tops of the back of the ankle. So and it's going to kind of snug up right up against where your heel is. So again, if this is like, woo, wow, too much, you'll put something underneath between your buttocks and where the rollers, or maybe even underneath, setting it underneath here or your block underneath and balancing your roller on it. Now, as you begin to sit back, we're doing this for a little period of time so that we can really stretch that tissue. You might feel your toes are cramping, really common. If that's true, come up, maybe wiggle them around, stretch them out, and then try to set those toes flat again. And sometimes that takes a while. And right now, I'm finding that a lot of people are sitting a lot more than they did when they had their normal activities. And so as this pandemic is affecting many people, that's might be true for you too. So this is a good exercise just to stretch all this out. Okay, so now and this is sort of a yin type of a maneuver where we're holding a long time. Knuckles come down, arms go straight, lift out away from your butt and down. Lift out away from your butt and down. Lift out away from your butt and down. Lift out away and down. Lift out away and down. Out away and down. So you want your arms to be straight. You don't want to force this. It might be that you're 2 or 3 inches away from your butt like this. It might be that you can go all the way up to the height of your shoulder, and that kind of range of motion, rotation there. But wherever you are in this, never forcing it, keep your upper arm bone gliding firmly in the joint by protecting that joint with all the muscles contracting and moving around. Let's do a few more reps. You could always stop whenever you'd want to too. This is really great tricep and upper back work and rotator cuff work. All right, now let's take that down and bring it up over your head. So your hands are on your thighs, lift it up. Exhale it back down. Arms are straight up, belly comes in, sternum lifts up, coming back down, coming up, and back down. Again, coming up, and back down. One more time, coming up, and back down. Again, you could do as many reps as you want to for these various exercises. Okay, we're going to come off of the edge of those feet. Some of you are going to say, oh, thank goodness. And then we're going to tabletop it right here and come back and forth in your tabletop, just stretching back, kind of working through that tissue. And if you feel like, oh my gosh, my feet need to be stretched out more, you could always point and flex, like flex your foot, point back, flex your foot, point back. If you need, or in rotation, you could always do little rotations. And if when you're in any of these positions, depending on what floor surface you're using, you could always bring, whenever you're in tabletop or something, some sort of kneeling pad or support underneath your knees. So you never want to grind your knees when you do this. All right, so we're going to go to what class members have aptly named the dreadeds. So these are the IT bands. So I want you to come across in your IT band. So you're going to take this from the top edge of your mat over, and you're going to take, if your top edge is pointing up as you look down at your mat to your right edge of your mat, you're going to take your left hip over it, okay? So it's kind of like you're like an X, and you're going to come to the top of your hip. Your IT band runs from the top, over the top of your hip bone, all the way down the side of your leg. So beginners, you're going to put your foot in front, and you're going to roll. And maybe as you're rolling here, you go, oh, I've been rolling here long enough, and I'm going to do a double leg roll all the way up toward the knee, all the way to the top of the hip. So a lot of times when people start out, they go, oh, this is so painful. So they put their foot down and they stay in one little 2-inch section. So that is not how that tissue runs. It runs all the way to the top, all the way down to the edge, like where the knee area is. So it might be that you're tighter up here, stiffer, maybe down by the knee. So make sure, test it out. Use your whole side. And you could keep your foot down to take some of the pressure of the weight of the body off. After you've been doing this for a while, you'll be able to go knees and pike it a little bit. Maybe even do a little challenge. Bring your knee up and down and up and down. Use a little bit of your obliques. All right, now let's come back and sit back in your child's pose and let your head just rest on your roller. And whatever we do on one side, we need to do on the other side. So you're thinking, whoo. And sometimes one side of the IT band, and generally it's this way with your body, is tighter than the other. So now let's bring, as you look at your mat, the edge of the roller up on the left side, and you're gonna take your right hip over it. So I'm gonna have my back to you, and we're gonna roll. So you can see how I'm coming all the way to the edge of my thigh, and then all the way to the knee. So you're using your arms. So if you're on a hard surface and you're going, oh, I came all the way out here, and I'm off on my mat, and maybe you're on a harder surface, you may want to put some sort of, have it ready, kneeling pad or something underneath that arm, so you can practice without feeling like you're dumping or pressing too hard into that elbow. And again, you can have your foot down. You can go slower than I'm going. You can kind of melt over that tissue, especially as you're discovering where you might be tight. You might do a double leg as you become more experienced. You might do one knee in and giving a little bit more pressure and a little bit more obliques. You can do this and raise one hand and work that. So you go all these ways, and really, and you can bend your bottom leg. When you do that, you get a little bit more around the knee, the edge of the knee. So kind of test out, you might want to be a little bit more up the edge of the hip. I'm rolling just a little bit longer there. Again, you can put your foot down if you're feeling this is too much. You might want to just go real slow rolls if it's really tender. So take your time, discover where you're at on your roller. Okay, come back into your child's pose, and always remember, everybody's going to be different and tighter in certain spots than others, and that may be what's happening with you. And there's no wrong or right really with this. Don't push into pain. Roll through it like a masseuse. And sometimes when you have a good massage, you're going to find areas that you go, oh, Didn't realize that they were so bunched up, so tight. You're trying to move the fascial tissue and the layers beneath the upper skin, the layers where the muscle and all the tendons and everything move together so that they glide more smoothly. And that's the purpose. All right, now coming up, and we're going to do another body part, thankfully, yes. So you're going to come onto your butt and bring this behind. And as you do, come down. Bring your hands behind your head. So your roller is going to be behind your thoracic spine, hands behind the head, lace fingers. And the reason why we're doing it this way is because we want to protect the back of our neck. So you're going to use your feet, ground your feet into your like bridge feet, and you're going to lift your butt as you roll up and down your spine. So it's okay, you're going to roll all the way up over the wing bones and all the way down by the hips. Now, as you can see, I've already rolled a great deal on my mat, like we say we're traveling. And that's okay. The more you get really one with your roller, the more you'll move all around, like you become one with that roller. Do not roll hard up into the back of the neck as you're here. It's just up to the top of maybe the wing bones. You can get all the way to the top of the wing bones. You can go slower or faster. And if your low back is a problem, or if you know you have some discs that are slightly out a little bit, you may want to go really careful over certain areas, or even maybe avoid certain areas altogether if it's too tender. So you never want to force something or push aggressively. This is making your body more supple, easing out, detoxing all that stuff that might be like bunched up and just, you know, after you've had a hard workout. Sometimes my athletes, they just love the rolling because it helps them detox. And sometimes sedentary people, they need this just to move the tissue around, to heat all that edges of the tissue. And for everybody, this generally is a really good therapeutic practice. Just whenever you need it, have your roller handy and you can pop down and work the areas that you need to. Okay, so I'm going to just in this workout trying to get you in every part of your body ideas. You can go longer on certain ones for yourself. Okay, so we're going to do one of our favorite parts, the low back. So when you do the low back, you're going to come all the way over the roller. Your back is on the mat. And you have the roller here placed at your sacral bowl. So you want to be, excuse my bottom, you want to be here along the top, the roller here in this area. Not up here in your waistband, not down here in the middle of your butt. You want it at the top of your glutes, in other words, your glute muscles. And you'll be able to feel that when it's in the right place. And you don't want to roll down too low into the bottom of your butt. Hold the edge of the roller on the soft round edges and open up your feet in a big V pike. So it's like almost a half plow, V plow, as your toes are coming down. Okay, lift it back up and bicycle. Just get used to being in this position. Good. Okay, now bring your right knee in and your left leg out. Use your abs and stretch. And maybe let the heel come all the way down to the mat, that left heel. And you'll be able to feel that hip flexor a lot. And lift up and stretch into the right leg, maybe flexing both feet. Let's flex both feet. Breathing. Hug both knees in. Nice. Make sure your roller hasn't slipped out of place. And that's one of the things that starts to happen. Lift up your left and your right leg goes down. Flex both feet. Sometimes it slips out from, just pull it back in there and position it. And then hug knee. Nice. And see if you can push that bottom leg down and stretch out that right hip flexor. Okay, both knees in. And I'm going to wiggle just a little bit, make sure it's in my sacral area. And keep your knees together and your feet. And roll both knees stacked over to your left. And roll both knees stacked over to your right. And again, over to the left. And over to the right. Now you notice my shoulder is not coming off the mat on either side when I go. So it might be, if you feel like Your knee doesn't want to go any maybe lower than this before your other shoulder comes up like that. Then back it off. Don't go as far. And as you start going, and then do it at your own pace. So you inhale and you exhale through the lowering, and you use your core, all of your core muscles. All right, so this is the gentlest of the twists. So we are doing a spinal twist. Now, if you're doing a twist and you discover that as you're doing these, you feel like your shoulder has to pop up or it's uncontrolled, you feel like you're flopping to one side and then the other, stop in the middle, reassess, go slower, and go through those movements correctly. Okay, now we're going to do the next one. So that was the one. We're going to take our left foot over our right knee and do a thread the needle and pull it. Now your thread the needle could be this. Your hands are coming around your other thigh. So my right thigh, hands behind, left foot in that figure 4. And then from here, and maybe going to shin, maybe going to the bottom of the foot, maybe holding the foot, but that's not the goal. The goal here is to see if you can feel this left outer thigh moving to the outside. At the same time, you see the roller is helping you get that stretch across the back where the psoas comes up over the hip and the back of the lats go all the way down. Your low lumbar muscles, your quadratus behind there. You're feeling everything stretching. All right, now bring your hands to the edge of your roller and roll that figure 4 to the left. Roll the figure 4 like your toe's going to step down on the right. Figure 4. Good. So your fire log leg. You just want to keep rolling. And you want your dangling foot, the right leg foot, this foot, to be floating down, not to be flexed. So if you find yourself doing this, or if you find yourself doing as you're trying to roll, I call that the big wing. Relax that foot down and let your top left do this rolling. And again, in your own time. Bring the knees back in. Take them to a pike. Legs can be straight or bent. And then let's switch. Let's bring that right over. So top foot flexes, bottom foot relaxes. So if instantly when you get into this thread the needle, all of a sudden this happens. I want you to think about how tight. That's compensation for what's happening in the opposite side. So your hips might be slightly out of whack. You might have one hip anterior or posteriorly rotated. So think about, as you do this, you're trying to open up that joint, not forcing. And you don't have to do this hand press. You could just be holding here and just, letting that muscular action happen. And remind that foot not to wang up. All right, and then hands. Let's go over to the right with your figure 4. And then just like you were dipping your toe in the water, you're coming over this way. But if you come over to one side and your shoulder pops up, don't go any lower. So as you're rolling across the back of the sacral ball and the psoas and the outer hip, you want to feel those medial glute areas stretching too, being rolled and stretched. And it might be that as you do this, you start to kind of feel like you're kind of falling off of or rolling out of position with your roller. It's okay. Reassess, reposition, grab it. Do a few more of these. So think about all those things. Come back to center, lift up. That one usually is so good. Open up and flex your feet. Okay, a little bit harder to stay in control. Make sure you keep both shoulders down when you do these. Roll to your left, roll to your right, and your big V. So what you don't want to do is have the V of your legs uncontrolled. So that as I'm doing right now, my V has stayed exactly the same. The outside of my hips, my thighs, my inner thighs, outer thighs are moving, taking this movement, and my obliques are moving me. Now, bring your knees into your chest for a moment. Hug them up really tight. Make sure you're in that sacral area, just exactly at the top of the glutes. Okay, now make your big V. Don't change your big V. So go from left to right. So here's a big mistake. People let both feet come over. They're all moving around in this. One knee's bending. They're doing, so you make your V and you slide so that it becomes like a stable V that's turning on the axis of the hip, of the sacral bowl. It's turning on the axis. And maybe getting the toe to come over, maybe not. Maybe your V's smaller, and that's okay too. You're still working, trying to work into the side of the hip, clear over to where you work that IT band. They get so tight from sitting. They get so tight from overwork. They get so tight from repetitive movement things. Like if you are a hiker, a skater, a cyclist, these are excellent. Okay, come back in, bring your knees in. And bring your toes up again into your pike. So your pike might be up here, or they might be bent knee, and it's all good. Maybe your toes are almost touching the floor. Do not lift your butt off of the roller though. So if you're up here into your regular plow, you've gone too far. Get your butt back on the roller so that you're feeling, it's a constant, no matter what, you're touching the roller somehow. It's a constant feeling of that roller pushing and stretching you and working that tissue. All right. From there, bring your feet back down into your bridge feet, and then we're going to walk them out. So you might be only here, or you might walk them out all the way. Now when you walk them out, you want to straighten your legs and see if you can feel the top of your hip flexors here really rolling out the back of your butt, feeling that you're rolling out the front, stretching out the front of your hip flexors. And let your toes point to the outside. So let your toe point to the outside there, and then circle your toes around, move through your ankles. Good. And then come back to your bridges, and then lift your feet up. And come up forward again into your Sukhasana, into your cross-legged. Okay, cross-legged movement. We're going to do another one for the head and neck. And I'm going to put the roller behind you for a moment. And bring your head down. And lift up your roller from behind you. This is just stretching out the back rotator cuff and letting the head come down. Sort of a Sukhasana forward fold. And then see where that takes you right now. And then put your ear to one shoulder and roll across. And your ear to the other shoulder and roll across. Ear to shoulder and roll across. Ear to shoulder. And come back to center and up. Okay. So back. Gonna put your neck on that roller right now, and your head drops back. Bring your hands down. Okay, let's come up a little bit more so you can see me. And you want the roundness of the roller to be under the neck. I know this is much easier done if I'm there actually visualizing or seeing what you're doing. And then you're just going to turn your head toward your left shoulder. Now, as you do this, don't lift your head to do it. So in other words, don't go lift and then take it up there. You're actually coming from neutral, pushing against the back of your skull and over. So you don't, if you have any little bones that are out in your neck, you don't want to push again. You don't want to push into any pressure, but you want to go against the back of your skull where it's nice, smooth, gliding over, because there's lots of little attachments there that will really, if they get tight, and they also get overstretched when your head is forward folding all the time. So you're trying to let it tilt back a little bit and come against the back of your skull and come over. Now, if you feel one side's a lot tighter as you try to bring your chin to one side, stay on that tight side maybe a little bit. Or maybe go a little bit farther over, deeper, trying to take your chin a little farther over. Never into pain. And you might find one side's a lot tighter than the other side, a lot tighter. So over one side and then over the other side, rolling it back and forth. This is usually pretty yummy. Nice. And then coming up. Now, second one, upper thoracic spine. This one is not a favorite, just like the IT bands with people. So go ahead and get your block. And you could put your block or a pillow or some little stack of books if you want behind your roll. We're going to do fish. Now, a lot of times with fish, and that's upper back stretch, and it is a back bend. So it's going to be in your lower thoracic spine, so look at the base of your wing bones. And you're going to lift your hips, and you're going to let your head come back onto your block. Now, as you're here, I want you to let your shoulders roll and your arms come on the opposite side of your roller. So that might not be doable, just this much of your fish. If you're too tight in your shoulders, you might feel like you want your arms to be like this, and bringing them back like this is just way too much. You could pad them, or you could have them up on the edge of your roller like this. Will be less strain or less stretch, less range of motion, and that you might need. Block, you might go, oh, I don't need that whole block. I'm going to just take maybe my kneeling pad behind my head here, and that feels yummy. Or maybe you want 2 kneeling pads. Maybe you want the block. So if you could have various tools. You're gonna have to play with these things. These are the things we play. Now, I want you to try to bring your bottom down. Now, when you bring your bottom down, it's a huge shoulder, upper back, low back, back bend. And it might be that you say you didn't have a block, and when you bring your hips down, you figured out, oh, you needed a block. Or for some of you, you can bring your head all the way down. Then the butt comes up, and you go, oh, wow. You might want to reposition your roller a little bit and sink into it. Maybe if you haven't done fish in a while, come back, put maybe just your kneeling pad behind your head and your butt comes down. But I want your butt to be down. So if you're forcing this and your butt's up in the air, squeezing up like that, I want you to bring it back down and relax your low back. I don't want the roller in your low back. I want it in your upper back. So it's stretching your thoracic. It is a fish Matsyasana stretch. And I don't want any stress on the back of your head, so neck. So if this is too much, having your head back, again, you could have the block back there and have less cervical spine stretch, but you're still getting a great stretch in your thoracic. So this is one of those soaking poses in roller that's just so beneficial. So wherever it is in your spine, in your neck, your cervical, your thoracic, your lumbar, this should not feel painful. And so if it does, and it might be that you still feel like your butt wants to come up. Okay, so what you could do, have your head on your block, so that means you have less of a bend in your back, or you're tighter in your shoulders, and maybe put a kneeling pad under your butt. So there, you have less of an extreme angle because the roller's the same size the roller is. So you might have that. So I'm giving you tons of options. You might have nothing under your butt, nothing under your head, and here. And you want to soak it for a period of time. Okay, so after we've soaked, and after I've talked so much, you have soaked this amount of time. But you could come out at any point you want to. You're going to come up, and you might need to assist your head up a little bit. Bend your knees. And you want to come back up into your thoracic and all the way over to where your head is supported on the rope. It's going to feel really good, especially for those of you that are tighter right now. And you might find, man, I never thought I was tight in my fish, but now I am. Okay, hands up, deep breath, come up to your thoracic. You'll find if you had a ponytail, you don't want it to roll underneath your rollers. So put it up higher, or any jewelry or necklaces or shirt or something that wants to pull underneath and give you whiplash. So there's nothing worse than having your hair get caught under the roller and then you're rolling on it, you jerk it. So you want to roll your thoracic spine again after you do that fish, and it's going to feel really good. You'll feel it. It's like the detox of that tissue. Deep breaths as you roll that. And as you do, again, I'm traveling. Come back into that area of your spine. Nice. Nice. Good. And then set your butt down again. And let's work a little bit for shoulders again. So let's take it onto your side this time. Now, for your shoulders. Shoulders are very sensitive joints, and there's less tissue over the top of them, between them and your bony tissue there. There's less, it's thinner, it's less. So, and it's a delicate joint. So I want you to think about it as we do this. You're gonna be very, very, very careful with it. So we're gonna take your crease here between your deltoid area and the front of your pecs and your chest, and we're gonna come into that crease and lay your shoulder on it. And then you're gonna bend your knees, have yourself in a little, almost a little fetal pose here, and use, do you see how I'm rolling across the edge of my arm? And it doesn't have to be very hard at all. You're not gonna push. In fact, you're gonna back off away from it, maybe even using the other hand to come up. Now I'm rolling my left shoulder here. This is my left shoulder as I'm rolling over. And you could turn your hand around back here, being easy with that, getting into the shoulder, the deltoid, up the bicep, turn your arm around, maybe a little tricep, and then we're gonna come up, come to neutral for a moment, put your forehead on your roller, sit back in your child's pose, and release your hands. You can turn your wrists, and then we're gonna go the other side. So again, coming over kind of a little fetal pose, and in that crease, put the crease there, and you can see the back of my arm now, so you might see how I'm gonna move around with that arm. And you can come clear up on the side edge of the outside of your deltoid and your upper arm, between the bicep and the tricep, and really work on that area. And then after you've done that for a bit, come back to center and stretch it out. And then coming up, and we're going to do an ending shavasana here. So come on down and bring the roller under your legs. So this usually feels good for most people, but if it doesn't feel right to you, absolutely you don't have to use the roller. And just let the roller go into the back of the crease of the legs. So let's see if I can see, so you can see the back of the crease. So the back behind the knee. So if I had the roller way up here in my thigh, I would be my legs would be too lifted, and I wouldn't be able to relax my heels as much. So you want to be behind so that your heels can just come down, Shavasana, your arms come down, relax into neutral. You could have your hands on your belly, you could have your hands up in cactus, or out wide, or however you want to have your hands. And you could also use some of your other tools. So if you wanted something behind your head or neck, or if you want to cover with something, and just release here, relax. Take a few deep breaths in preparation here, and if you want to wiggle around, like I like to wiggle around my feet, my hands, my last movement, maybe move your head from side to side till you really work your way into a relaxed position. And you could play your favorite music here. You could stay in your Shavasana for minutes or just for a few moments. And let's just take a few breaths. Let's actually work through our chakras for a moment. So let's work through root chakra at the base of your pelvic floor as you're visualizing that base of your practice, of your chakras, your roots. Think of it as red earthen clay, and that's your base. And then moving up from that to your sacral bowl, moving to your sacral bowl, the area between two hip bones, visualizing that orange, bright orange, and thinking of that as the bowl of movement, activity, creativity, and bright orange. And relax the back of your hips and your thighs. And then taking another deep breath and coming from your sacral chakra up to your belly button and the center of your belly, and like the rings of Saturn, golden rings moving wider and wider and wider and out and circling around the outsides of your waist. And feeling that solar plexus, bright yellow chakra. And moving from your solar plexus chakra, bright yellow, up into your heart, into the rib cage. The heart encased within that rib cage, protected by the beautiful bones of the ribs. And think of the heart chakra. Listen to the beating of your heart. Feel the breath expanding your rib cage. It's bright green, the breath of life, newness of life, bright green. Anahata chakra, the heart chakra. And then moving from the heart chakra, relaxing everything up over the top of your collarbones into your throat, bright crystal blue, your throat chakra, relaxing the sides of your neck, imagining all of your glandular activities and relaxing and feeling that balancing of your throat chakra. And then moving from your throat chakra all the way up into your brow chakra, purple. And think of that deep purple in your brow, your anja, your third eye, and relax your mind. Focus, relax your eyes, the back of your head, relax your face. Use your mind for positive good and for unity. Purple, bright purple. And then moving up into the crown of your head, moving up to the top, Sahasrara. And Sahasrara, the crown chakra, is pictured as sometimes a dark black purple or a blue purple, and sometimes it's deep black. And I like to think of it as dark, like midnight, and all of the stars being tiny little bright white lights that are the little connections, like the stars, millions of them, billions of them. And think of that as like all the tiny little neurons firing in your body, all the little nerve endings, all the connections between the crown, the brow, the throat, the heart, the belly, the sacral, and the root. And think of all the connections that it moves through your body and the cleansing effects of the roller workout in your body. And you could take as much time as you would like here in your Shavasana. And then when you want to come out of your Shavasana, you're simply going to let your heels and your knees bend and your heels roll up against the roller until you pull it out. Pull it out to one side, and roll that out. And then you could either set it away from you, out to the side a little bit, and then roll gently onto your side lying position into your fetal pose, just as a transfer. It's just keeping your spine all lubed up here. And then pressing your way up onto your bottom and back onto your hips, your sitting bones. And then as you go from the side of your hip to your sitting bones and your hands pressed together in an attitude of gratefulness, as we're grateful for our bodies, for the healing effects of the roller and our practice, our yoga practice, the movements of yin type movements and of rhythm and of circulation and of myofascial connections and bands of tissue that we can detox in our practice. As we breathe here, as we work through our body like a great massage, in gratefulness, we all say together, Namaste. Inhale back to the sky and exhale it out. Well, thank you for doing this roller workout with me. You can email me. Go to my website, Monica Matthews Yoga, for any questions that you might have. There's a contact page there. If you're one of my regular students, I can give an advanced roller workout. If you'd like to have that, I will send out my YouTube connections. And have fun rolling. Be creative. Have a great day.